Welcome back to another Film Geek video. Well, the month of February has come and gone, and that means only one thing. It's time for me to rank all of the new movies I saw in the month of February. These are movies that I have already done a review on, so if you want to go into a more in-depth review of these films, go ahead and check back on my channel. Now, I know I am way behind on this video. The month of March, much like its name, marched right into my life and kicked me in the freaking face. I had a lot of stuff going on right at the end of February into the beginning of March, and I just haven't had time to sit down and work on this video. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't really felt like it either. Videos like this take a lot more time in editing and a lot more time in filming and all, so I haven't really had the time to really sit down or the energy to really get this video across in a good way. I was worried that if I sat down and I was completely exhausted, then my video wasn't going to be that much fun. I'm not going to be super enthusiastic. I'm not going to probably come up with witty retort. It's just going to be me going, and I thought then they. So I kept wanting to find a nice clean day to be able to sit down and do this video right. Because like I said, I've had a lot going on, not just in this channel, because I've already reviewed a lot of movies on this channel for the month of March, but I also have stuff going on in my personal life at the old day job. We've opened up a new exhibit at the museum. It just opened at the beginning of the month, and I've been putting in a lot of extra hours to get that all going and all. So needless to say, I've been very tired getting home from the day job, and if it wasn't a new movie or something, I just did not have it in me to get out the door or even sit down and do something like this. So I apologize on how late this video is. But you know what, folks, as always, it's enough of me sitting here jibber jabbering on, because it's time for us to get over to the information superhighway, that series of tubes that we like to call the internet, because it's time to rank all of the new movies I saw in the month of February. Welcome to the internet, everybody. Let's get this party started. Okay, now the way I like to do my list is I like to start with my favorite movie of the month, and I go to my least favorite movie of the month. So the first one, number one of the month of February, is Last Breath. Now, Last Breath tells the story of some deep sea divers. One of these deep sea divers gets stuck down below, and the other ones try to work together to figure out a way to get this guy back up to the surface before his oxygen runs out. Guys, this film was so suspenseful. I was tense throughout this entire movie. Now, this film is based off of true events. It's also got a documentary out there based off of the events of this film too. If you don't know anything about the storyline of this Last Breath movie, do not go into it blind, because it really is going to add to this movie. The acting is great. The story is great. It's such an amazing, tense story of survival, and it's a true life story. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I can't. Giving you away too much is going to completely ruin this film. So like I said, don't go into this movie knowing anything. Go into this movie, then read the news articles, then watch the documentary about this film, so then you can see how good they did, because the director of this movie also helped direct the documentary of the film. So I think that's pretty interesting. All in all, excellent film, Last Breath, number one movie of the month of February. That brings us to number two, and another movie that really surprised me. This is a film that was released on VOD, not VOD, it was released on streaming services. This came to us from Apple TV Plus, I think that's what they call it. I just call it Apple TV. But this is the movie The Gorge. The Gorge really, really surprised the ever-living crap out of me. Let me find the poster for it down here amongst all of these posters, because I got a lot of them and I don't know which one it is. I think this is it right here. Here we go. Alright, so The Gorge tells the story of two people who are they're both snipers, special operatives of their respected governments, and they're asked to keep an eye on this gorge. What's inside the gorge? Well, that's what you find out as this film progresses. But not only is this an extremely effective action horror movie, it's also an effective romantic film, because both of these people on the sides of the gorge fall in love and they go on an adventure to try to find out what's inside that gorge and so on and so forth. I was blown away by this movie. I could not believe that this thing was on a streaming service. It looked really well done. It had some practical effects mixed in with some extremely good looking CGI, especially for a streaming service. This film was just an all-around well-made movie, and it seemed like it was a perfect movie also for, Valentine's Day, because it came out around that time with the romance aspect of it. Plus, it had some action, adventure, and comedy to kind of keep the old juices flowing while you were watching the movie. All in all, I really enjoyed this film, and if you do not have a membership to Apple Plus, this is a really great opportunity to check out the service, do the free service, check it out, see if you like it, and while you're there, watch the movie The Gorge, because let me tell you folks, this is a streaming service movie that should have been up on the big screen, period. Really good movie, really enjoyed it. That brings us to number 3 on the list, and this is going back to the old holiday slasher film with the movie Heart Eyes. Heart Eyes tells the story of a slasher who pops up on Valentine's Day every year in different parts of the country and commits a bunch of murders. There's so many things about this movie that I absolutely love. I like the fact that in the story of the slasher, we're more or less catching his story in the middle of things, and then we're finding out what's going on. And I like that because this is one of the few times in the history of horror movies that I'm like, I could go for some prequels in this because I'd like to see what happened with other victims and all. So this killer shows up on Valentine's Day every year, and this tells the story of a specific couple that's being chased by the Heart Eyes killer throughout the evening of Valentine's Day. And of course, while they're chasing them down, anyone in this slasher's way is fair game. There is a lot of great kills in this movie, some excellent looking special effects, practical effects. The story itself, while it sounds very surface level, is really fun. You have an extremely charismatic and a great chemistry cast in this film. All in all, guys, this is a really solid movie. At this point in time, I think it's already out on streaming services. So if it is on a streaming service somewhere, check this movie out if you get the opportunity. Heart Eyes, finding itself at number 3. Coming in at number 4, we're going into the family fun genre with Paddington in Peru. Paddington in Peru is the continuing story of Paddington Brown, Paddington Bear, which is not his name, just a title. Well, Paddington is. The bear is just what he is. So this tells the story of Paddington as he goes back to his homeland of Peru and goes on yet another adventure. This film is charming, it's fun, it's a lot of fun for the entire family. It was just a solid all-around great film. Another movie that has outstanding special effects, excellent looking CGI. These movies have progressively gotten better with each one. In my review, I stated that I did not like this movie as much as the second one. The more I've gone back and thought of it, honestly, I think I like it just as much as the second one. I do need to check this movie out again. I hope it's coming to streaming services soon. I think it's actually still out in theaters, so if you haven't had a chance to check out Paddington in Peru, you really enjoyed the first 2 movies, you're not gonna, this is the same. It's the same fun, the same charismatic, loving little guy going around trying to solve people's problems with kindness and, of course, marmalade sandwiches. So if you just want to watch a nice, heartwarming, fun movie, then you need to check out Paddington in Peru. Now that brings us to our 5th movie, and this is diving into the VOD genre, also AVOD. This was the month that we learned what AVOD means. That means it's on one of the advertising video on-demand services, much like Pluto or Tubi. And this one is on Tubi because I looked it up, and that is Book of the Witch. Book of the Witch was a screener that was sent to me, and I really enjoyed this movie. Not only is this film just well made and well shot, it's also a little frightening in areas. It tells the story of a woman who is seeking out immortality. She finds out the legend of a witch who has somehow or another figured out a way to do it. In searching for this witch, it wakens the witch who goes on a killing spree. This film is really, really well made for the low budget, and the production value is very high. I really like the look of this film. As I said in my review, one of my favorite aspects of the film was the usage of shadow and light, and especially the way it was used to, shroud or hide the witch while she's going around doing her killing spree. They also went back to the old basic pointy hat witch look, and I really liked that. Our lead actor who played the witch, also excellent performance. I would like to see more movies from this. I wouldn't mind seeing sequels from this one also. I would like to see if there is a way to bring back the witch or something in another film, if the story and the acting and all the cool special effects and all could still be in the film. So yes, if this movie is something that you sound interested in, it is currently on Tubi TV. Check it out with some advertisements, definitely worth your time. And if you want, go check it out digitally. You can rent it or you can also purchase it. In my opinion, I liked it a lot. Go ahead and purchase this film. Add it to your digital collection. So that brings me to number 6. And this movie would have probably found itself much higher on the list, but there was just the ending, the way the third act wrapped up, unfortunately put it a little bit lower, and that is The Monkey. The Monkey tells the story of two twin brothers who happen upon a monkey. Well, anyways, this monkey is a mulligan. It's a MacGuffin. Sorry, it's a MacGuffin horror story. Okay, whenever this monkey shows up, death happens. This film is a lot of fun. It is a comedic, it's a horror comedy, and it does a pretty decent blend. I would say this is probably more of a 60-40. 40% horror because the effects of the kills and all are spectacular. Some of those kills do some really great tension and some suspenseful moments and all, but most of them were just pretty much done for the laughs. There was a lot of this movie that I really enjoyed, but unfortunately, once you get to the third act of this film, it goes into a twist realm that I didn't necessarily love. I didn't hate it, but it didn't really help the film in any sort of way. Watch my full review of this one and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, all in all, guys, still a very solid watch. If you do catch this film, get out there, check this movie out. If it's still in theaters, maybe go see it in your area. If not, it's probably pretty close to getting the streaming services. But give The Monkey a watch when you get an opportunity. Alright, coming in at number 7 is a balls to the wall action, bloody action film, and that is Demon City. Now, Demon City tells the story of a man who's on a revenge killing spree. He's after the gangsters that has wronged him and his family they basically frame him for the death of his family. So he goes on a killing spree. Now this is a very been there, done that kind of thing, but the special effects, the actual great practical effects that are in this film, the fight choreography and all, make this film a really good watch. This is a Netflix original film, so it's not gonna hurt you none. It's just the time. It's based off of a manga series also, and I do have confirmation. Oh, pardon me. Whoop, the beer. Anyways, I have confirmation on this. When I was talking to a person who posted a comment, I had made a comment in my video. I said, I don't know anything about the manga of this series whatsoever, but I just feel like this film was a big glazing over of the story that came from the manga, and I have a feeling that the manga itself had a much deeper, richer story, because again, this movie is very generic in its storytelling. It's just, if you love a good, brutal, bloody action film, it's worth your watch on an afternoon. But when it comes to story and depth of its characters and all, this film is very surface level. They try to tie into some things that you can tell was probably from the manga, but it never really latches down on anything. But if you're just sitting around on a Sunday afternoon and you want to watch just a horror, just bloody mess of an action film, this is definitely something to check out. It's a watchable movie, but if you're a fan of the manga, I think you might be a little disappointed in this one. Okay, that brings us to number 8. Number 8 is a neat little horror film by the name of Dead Things. This is more of a slow burn, metaphorical horror movie, and it tells of the horrors of the good old internet dating service, or just the modern dating scene in general. There's also some other tie-ins to the whole thing. Basically what this movie is a movie for you if you're someone who has just kind of given up on the dating experience in the modern world. You're going to probably find this movie more of a documentary. Maybe not as horrifying as the rest of us, because you're out there in the streets fighting the good fight. But yeah, it's a nightmare out there, and this movie is just an absolute just gem if you're someone who's in that realm. But I really enjoyed this movie. It has a lot of creepy vibes throughout the entire film. The acting is absolutely on point. Everything in this film really works to deliver the message that it's trying to at its core. The movie is also a Shudder original, so if you're someone who has the streaming service, it's definitely worth a viewing, in my opinion, especially if you're someone who likes a nice slow burn metaphorical horror film. All right, coming in at number 8 is yet another metaphorical horror film that is on Shudder TV, and that is Little Bites. Little Bites tells the story of a woman who is being held hostage by a monster that is living in her basement, and she has to do awfully terrible things to keep this monster happy. This film is again another metaphorical allegory, slow burn horror film, one that really focuses on the acting, the storytelling, the practical effects. My problem with this film is that I really, going into this, thought this was going to be more of a bloodfest, but it really is more of just a slow burn vampire story. We get a little bit of that, but there's no real big bloody mess of a scene. But the acting, the story is really on point with this movie. I do feel like this film ends on a note that is going to leave some viewers going, hey, what the hell? But sometimes I like those kind of open-ended viewings where you can kind of piece together what was going on in this movie. So if you're looking for a film that's going to keep you guessing and thinking for a long period of time, I would suggest this movie. Otherwise, if you're not really into this kind of thing, if you're not into a nice slow burn, story-driven, heavily, very well-acted type of horror movie with very little action, very little gore, but some really good stuff with this whole idea of why this monster's there, what the symbolism is behind this monster, the little bites thing that this is also kind of having, what the meaning of little bites really is, stuff like that. I really enjoyed this film, but it is a very acquired taste. So that's why it doesn't necessarily find itself up a little bit further up the list, because this is more of a personal like type thing. I don't honestly think that a lot of people are going to dig this movie, but I thought it was pretty cool. Now the final film, number 10, the last movie on my list, I will say this. I really wanted to like this movie a lot. I really did. Going into this movie, I had really high hopes, has a great cast, and I'm like, okay, here we go. An awesome action comedy centered around Valentine's Day. Oh boy, and that is Love Hurts. Okay, so Love Hurts, I feel like it's been kind of beaten apart by critics and all, because honestly, it really wasn't that good of a movie. Its story is extremely weak. The movie just kind of flows from location to location. I mean, this movie is just completely discombobulated. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to spend too much money or too much time on this. I don't want to spend too much money on this film. Don't spend money on this film. If you want to watch it out of curiosity, cool. But it's another typical guy with a secret type of thing, but for some odd reason, he's not really doing a good job of hiding that he's trying to hide his secret or whatever. But anyways, it tells the story of an assassin whose love of his life comes back into his life out of nowhere, who he tried to get away from. He trying to get away from the business, but he can't get away from the bad guys. So, it's one of those movies where it's like, I got a secret. I used to be a badass, and now I sell real estate. And unfortunately, the story and the characters and everything, it's just... if you're gonna watch a revenge film on streaming or whatever, check out Demon City. If you want to watch a fun romance film with lots of action, check out The Gorge. Stay away from this movie, and it sucks because it's got a great cast, and by no means does anyone in this film do a bad job with the acting or anything like that. They try so hard to make this movie entertaining. I mean, everybody in this film is giving their all. If anything, stream it out of curiosity, because the fight sequences are really, really well done, and that is a good reason to watch this film. But then just gotta skip through the rest, because there's really no reason to watch anything else in this movie except for the fight sequences. There's only like one character that's any good and all. I mean, it's just a bad movie, and I'm gonna stop talking about it, because if you want to see more about Love Hurts, just watch my review. I really break it down for you in that. Well, alright guys, there you have it. My favorite movies in the month of February, from my favorite to least favorite. And I want to state that all of the movies, save for my last film, are very watchable and something that I think that people will get enjoyment out of. And again, the Little Bites might be a little bit more of an acquired taste. But all in all, I'd have to say that the month of February was really solid. I got to start things off with a really big surprise with Last Breath, and it just kind kept going with that quality for most of the month. So you know what, guys? It's enough of me going. It's time for me to get out of here. So thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.